The flight from Anchorage landed in Bettles just after noon, wheels skidding through slush on a runway barely longer than the Cessna's wingspan. I stepped onto the tarmac with a duffel bag, 2 thermoses of coffee I'd brewed myself, and a copy of the Northern Slope Regional Corporation contract stapled to a clipboard. My name was already on the dotted line. Debt does that, makes you sign before you've seen the place. The cold hit like a steel plate to the chest. Not the dry cold you read about, but wet, clinging, the kind that seeps through wool and settles in your marrow. A man in a red parka with a badge that read, Hendricks Maintenance and Logistics, waited by a snowmobile with a cargo sled. He didn't offer his hand, just nodded toward the sled. "You're the new radar tech?" "Jack Mercer," I said, relieving Diaz. He grunted, checking my name against a laminated sheet. "Diaz didn't make it to the evac window. Storm came early. We pulled him out 3 days late. Frostbite on both feet. He's retired now." Hendricks tossed my duffel onto the sled. "You'll stay through March. Minimum, no early outs. Not even if you think you hear your mother calling." I didn't ask what he meant. I just nodded. I needed the money. More than that, I needed to prove I could finish something. 3 failures before 30. This wasn't glamorous, but it was a job with walls, a roof, and a paycheck that cleared 6 figures if you lasted the season. Alaska doesn't care about your past. It only cares if you follow the rules. The snowmobile ride took 2 hours. We crossed frozen riverbeds, skirted black spruce stands bent double under ice, and climbed a gradual slope until the land opened into a treeless plateau. That's where I saw it. The dome. A white fiberglass hemisphere rising from the snowpack like a half-buried egg, ringed by a chain-link fence crusted with rime. A single-access road, plowed weekly if the weather allowed, led to a prefab outbuilding, sleep quarters, kitchen, radio room, bolted to the base of the dome. A metal staircase spiraled up to a hatch on the dome's lower curve. Everything was white, gray, or rust. No birds, no tracks except ours. Hendricks killed the engine. The silence pressed in immediately, thick, absolute, the kind that makes your ears ring. He led me to the outbuilding, unlocked the door with a key on a steel ring, and handed me another set. "Lock it behind you always. Even if you're just stepping outside to pee. There's a urinal in the corner if you don't want to go out." Inside, the air was stale but warm. A small kitchenette, a cot with a sleeping bag, a steel desk bolted to the floor, and a short hallway leading to a radio booth and a bathroom with no mirror. On the desk sat a manila envelope labeled "For Incoming Tech. Read before first shift." Hendricks pointed to it. "That's your Bible. Read it. Memorize it. Break a rule and you won't get frostbite. You'll get worse." He didn't elaborate. He showed me the breaker box, the water heater, set to a fixed 140 degrees, never adjust, the emergency flare locker, sealed with a numbered padlock, and the radio. Channel 4 was for check-ins with Bettles dispatch. Channel 6 was strictly for internal dome comms. Never transmit on it unless you're following Procedure Gamma. He demonstrated the daily inventory: 12 D-cell batteries, 3 gallons of distilled water, 6 rolls of duct tape, 2 pounds of coarse salt, 1 first aid kit, sealed, contents not to be altered, and a logbook for weather anomalies that weren't in the NOAA feed. "You log anything that doesn't match the satellite readout," he said, "even if it's just a flicker. Especially if it's just a flicker." He left at dusk. The snowmobile's headlight vanished over the ridge, and I was alone. I lit the propane stove, boiled water for noodles, and sat at the desk with the manila envelope. The wind picked up outside, a low moan through the eaves. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper typed on an old mechanical typewriter. No letterhead, no signature, just a list. It began with the date, October 17, 2024, and ended with 14 rules. 1. The dome hatch must be sealed by 6 p.m. and not reopened until 6 a.m. No exceptions, not for storms, not for malfunctions, not for voices. 2. Between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m., all interior lights in the outbuilding must be off. Use only the red lens headlamp from the desk drawer. Do not look out any window during this window. 3. If you hear knocking on the outbuilding door between midnight and 3 a.m., do not answer, do not speak, do not acknowledge it. Wait 7 minutes after the last knock before moving. 4. The bathroom mirror was removed for a reason. Do not bring any reflective surface into the outbuilding, not even a phone screen. If you must check your reflection, do it outside in daylight only. 5. Footsteps circling the outbuilding must be counted. If the count reaches exactly 52, go to the radio booth, lock the door from the inside, and wait until the count stops. Do not attempt to identify the source. 6. Between 1:10 a.m. and 1:20 a.m., the south-facing window in the radio booth must be covered with the blackout curtain. After 1:20 a.m., it must remain uncovered until sunrise. 7. If you see a person in a maintenance uniform within 50 yards of the fence, do not greet them. Do not make eye contact. Retreat to the outbuilding and lock all doors. Wait 30 minutes, then check the perimeter log. If their name is not listed for that day, burn the page and flush the ashes down the toilet. 8. All supply deliveries arrive at noon on the first Tuesday of the month. If a delivery arrives at any other time, do not accept it. Do not open the door. Log the attempt and report it on Channel 4 at the next scheduled check-in. 9. Do not use the dome's internal stairwell after dark. All radar diagnostics must be performed remotely from the outbuilding console between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. only. 10. If the radio plays static that resolves into a voice saying your name, switch to Channel 6 immediately and repeat, "I am stationed, I follow the rules." Do this 3 times, then power down the radio for 10 minutes. 11. Snow that falls between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. will not accumulate. Do not go outside during this window. Do not look at the ground. 12. The flare locker is for emergencies only. You may not open it unless you have completed all steps of emergency protocol Theta. Unauthorized access voids your contract and forfeits your pay. 13. If you see an animal moving backward, any animal, retreat indoors immediately. Seal all windows with duct tape using 3 full rotations per pane. Wait until sunrise before removing the tape. 14. You are not alone, but you must act as if you are. Never assume a sound is human. Never assume a shadow is natural. When in doubt, lock the door. I read the list twice, then a 3rd time. My hands were steady, but my throat was dry. This wasn't just a remote posting. This was a ritual wrapped in bureaucracy. I looked out the kitchen window. The dome loomed against the twilight sky, snow swirling around its base like breath. I thought about Diaz, both feet gone. Maybe he'd answered a knock. Maybe he'd looked in a mirror. I locked the door. The first week passed in a blur of calibration checks, radio logs, and inventory tallies. I followed the rules to the letter. I covered the south window at 1:10 a.m., uncovered it at 1:20. I slept with the red headlamp clipped to my collar, ready to snap it off if I heard footsteps. Nothing happened. The silence was so complete it felt like pressure. I started counting my own breaths to fill it. On the 8th night, I heard the first knock. It came just after midnight. 3 soft taps on the outbuilding steel door. Not loud, not urgent. Just there, like someone testing if it was locked. I froze. My spoon was halfway to my mouth, instant oatmeal steaming in a bowl. Rule 3. Do not answer. Do not speak. Wait 7 minutes after the last knock. I set the spoon down, checked my watch. The second hand ticked. 1 minute, 2. The wind howled outside, but the knocks didn't come again. At 6 minutes and 40 seconds, I heard it, a whisper barely audible through the door seam. "Jack, it's okay, it's just me." The voice was my sister's, Emily. She died in a car wreck 5 years ago. I hadn't heard it since the funeral. My chest tightened. My fingers twitched toward the doorknob. Rule 3 said nothing about voices, only knocks. Was this a knock? No, but it came right after. Was it a test? I clenched my jaw, walked to the radio booth, sat in the dark, waited. At 7 minutes and 10 seconds, silence returned. I stayed put until 1 a.m. Then I checked the perimeter log. Nothing. No names. No entries. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning I found something on the doorstep. A child's mitten. Bright red, wool slightly damp. Not frozen. I didn't touch it. I took a photo with the station's weather camera, no screen, just a lens and film, and logged it under anomalous object, outside perimeter. Then I went inside and sealed the door. That afternoon, Bettle's dispatch came through on Channel 4. "Mercer, you copy?" "Loud and clear," I said. "Diaz sent a final log before we pulled him out. Said to give it to you. It's archived under Legacy Briefing, Dome 7. You'll need the access code from your contract appendix. Review it before your next overnight shift." I found the code in the back of my contract, typed it into the console. The file loaded slowly, scanned pages of Diaz's handwriting. Most of it was technical: radar drift, temperature anomalies, battery consumption spikes. But the last 3 pages were different. He wrote about the footsteps. "They circle every third night," he wrote. "Always 52 steps. Never more, never less. I counted them with a metronome app once. Exactly 1.8 seconds per step, like they're measuring the building." He wrote about the mirror. "I brought a shaving mirror, just a small one. Thought it was safe. At 2:17 a.m. I saw something behind me in the reflection. Not in the room, in the mirror world. It was watching me. I smashed the glass. But the next night, the shards on the floor spelled my name." He wrote about the south window. "It doesn't matter if you cover it or not, it watches either way. But if you disobey the timing, it gets louder." The last line was underlined twice. "They learn from mistakes. Don't make new ones." I read it 3 times. Then I locked the file and wiped the console history. That night I double-checked the duct tape on the windows, tested the radio on both channels, counted the salt, still 2 pounds. I set my headlamp on the desk, ready. At 10 p.m., I turned off all lights. At 11:45, I heard footsteps, slow, measured, crunching through the snowpack. They started at the north corner of the building, moved clockwise. I stood in the center of the room, eyes closed, counting silently. 1, 2, 3. The wind had died. No other sounds, just the footsteps. 20, 21, my heart pounded. I didn't move. 40, 41. I opened my eyes, went to the radio booth, locked the door from the inside, sat on the floor with my back against the wall. 50, 51, 52. The footsteps stopped. I waited. 10 minutes, 20, nothing. I unlocked the door at 2 a.m., went to the kitchen, made tea. My hands shook, but I didn't spill a drop. The next day, a storm rolled in. Not on the NOAA feed, not in the satellite images, but the barometer on the wall dropped fast, 20 points in an hour. I radioed Bettles. "Unregistered pressure drop," I said. "Localized. Dome 7 only." Dispatch was quiet for a moment. "Copy that. Follow Standard Storm Protocol Alpha, and Mercer, don't go near the dome hatch even if the radar alarms." "Understood." Protocol Alpha meant triple-checking all seals, moving all water containers to the center of the room in case of structural shift, and sleeping in the radio booth with the door wedged shut. I did all 3. By dusk, the wind was screaming like a thing in pain. Snow hit the windows sideways, even though the wind gauge showed calm. At 1:10 a.m., I covered the south window. At 1:20, I uncovered it. The glass was frosted, but I could see a shape standing just beyond the fence. Humanoid. Still, facing the window. I didn't move, didn't breathe. At 1:21, it turned its head, slowly, too slowly, and looked directly at me. Its eyes were black pits, no whites, no pupils, just void. I didn't break eye contact. Rule 6 didn't say anything about looking. It only specified the curtain timing. But Rule 14 whispered in my mind, never assume a shadow is natural. At 1:22, the shape took a step backward, then another. Then it turned and walked away backward into the storm. I stayed at the window until 2 a.m. When I finally looked down, my reflection in the glass showed my own eyes. But the pupils were gone. I jerked back, ran to the bathroom, splashed water on my face. No mirror. Good. The next morning, the storm had passed. The snow was pristine. No tracks, no shape, no mitten. But the radar console was flashing red. Signal intrusion, the screen read. Source, internal. I ran diagnostics, all systems nominal. The dome hadn't been breached. The hatch was sealed. But the radar was picking up a pulse, a slow, rhythmic thrum coming from inside the dome structure itself. I called Bettles. They know, dispatch said. It happens after the first visual contact. Don't go in, just log it. And Jack, review the emergency protocols. They'll send them today. The file arrived at noon. Not from dispatch. From an unknown sender. Encrypted. I used the legacy code from Diaz's file to open it. Emergency protocols. Effective immediately. 1. If the dome emits a pulse for more than 10 minutes, initiate seal theta. Cover all windows with 3 layers of duct tape. Place salt lines at every threshold, 1 inch thick, continuous. And retreat to the radio booth. Do not exit until the pulse stops. 2. If the radio receives a transmission in your native language during a pulse event, switch to channel 6 and repeat. I am stationed. I follow the rules. Do not deviate. Do not add words. If the voice responds with your name, power down and wait 12 hours before rebooting. 3. If you see your own silhouette moving independently, on a wall, in snow, on glass, do not track it. Close your eyes and count to 60. Then verify your location against the floor plan taped to the desk. If you are not where you remember being, initiate lockdown gamma. Seal yourself in the radio booth, consume 1 full liter of water and wait for sunrise. I printed the protocols, taped them next to the original rules. That night, the pulse started at 11:58 p.m. It was low, felt more than heard, a vibration in the floorboards, in my teeth. I initiated seal theta, 3 layers of tape on every window. Salt lines at the kitchen door, bathroom door, radio booth door, and main entrance. The salt hissed where it touched the floorboards like it was burning. I retreated to the radio booth. At 12:15 a.m., the radio crackled. Jack, you don't have to stay. You can open the door just once. It was my father's voice. He'd been dead 10 years. I switched to channel 6. I am stationed. I follow the rules. Again. I am stationed. I follow the rules. 3rd time. I am stationed. I follow the rules. The voice sighed. You always were stubborn. Then static. I powered down the radio, waited 12 hours. At noon, the pulse stopped. I removed the tape, swept up the salt, logged everything. 2 days later, a snowmobile appeared on the ridge. Not Hendrix. A young man in a green parka, too thin for this weather, rode up alone. He carried a clipboard. Rookie, he said, hopping off. They sent me early, backup tech, in case you know. He smiled. Friendly. Too friendly. I didn't return it. You're not on the perimeter log, I said. He frowned. They didn't tell you? I'm assigned to Dome 7 starting next month, just doing orientation. I stepped back. Wait here. I went inside. Checked the logbook. No name. No authorization code. Rule 7. If you see a person in a maintenance uniform within 50 yards of the fence, do not greet them. Do not make eye contact. Retreat indoors. Wait 30 minutes, then check the perimeter log. If their name is not listed, burn the page and flush the ashes. I waited. Through the window, I watched him pace. He kept glancing at the dome. At 25 minutes, he walked toward the fence. At 28, he put his hand on the chain link. At 29, he looked directly at my window and winked. I burned the log page, flushed the ashes. At 30 minutes, I opened the door. He was gone. No tracks leading away, just a single set of footprints circling the building. 52 steps. I locked the door. That night, I heard knocking again, 3 taps. Then a child's voice. "Mister, I lost my mitten." I didn't move, didn't speak. Waited 7 minutes, it didn't come back. But the next morning, both mittens were on the doorstep, paired, dry. I logged it, didn't touch them. The days blurred. I followed the rules. The pulse returned twice more. Each time I executed Seal Theta perfectly. The footsteps came every third night, always 52. The south window shape never reappeared, but I still followed the timing. Cover at 110, uncover at 120. I stopped sleeping more than 3 hours a night. My reflection in the tea kettle showed dark circles, hollow cheeks. But I kept the inventory exact. Batteries, 12. Water, 3 gallons. Salt, 1 pound 14 ounces, used 2 ounces during last pulse. Then came the blackout. It started at 9 p.m. Not just power. Radio silence. No static. No signal. Like the world had been unplugged. I checked the breaker. Fine. Checked the antenna. Ice-free. The dome's external lights, usually on all night, were dark. I lit the kerosene lamp. Checked the emergency protocols. Rule 1. If the dome emits a pulse, but there was no pulse, just silence. Rule 2. If the radio receives a transmission, but it was dead. Rule 3. If you see your own silhouette. I didn't. But at 10:15 p.m., I saw movement outside. Not footsteps. A figure walking along the fence, backward. Rule 13. If you see an animal moving backward, any animal, retreat indoors immediately. Seal all windows with duct tape using 3 full rotations per pane. It didn't say person, but Diaz's notes said, they learn from mistakes. I sealed the windows, triple layers. At 11 p.m., the knocking started, not 3 taps, 52 knocks, 1 for each step. I went to the radio booth, locked the door. The knocks stopped at midnight. Silence. Then from inside the outbuilding, my own voice. "Jack, let me in. I'm you. I know the rules." I closed my eyes, counted to 60. When I opened them, I was standing in the kitchen. I didn't remember moving. I checked the floor plan taped to the desk. I was supposed to be in the radio booth. I initiated lockdown gamma, sealed myself in the booth, drank 1 liter of water, waited for sunrise. At 6 a.m., I opened the door. The outbuilding was empty, but the main door was ajar. I hadn't opened it. I checked the perimeter. 52 footprints in the snow, all leading to the door. None leading away. I locked it, bolted it, taped it shut. That day, I drafted the amendments list. Not because I was told to, because I had to. Amendments to core rules effective immediately. 1. The term animal in Rule 13 includes all biological entities, human or otherwise. If it moves backward, treat it as hostile. 2. The 7-minute wait after knocking. Rule 3 now applies to all auditory contact between midnight and 3 a.m., including voices, music, or crying. 3. The south window, Rule 6, must remain covered at all times after first visual contact with an entity. Uncovering it is now prohibited. 4. All reflections, including in metal, glass, water, or ice, must be avoided between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Cover all reflective surfaces with cloth. 5. The flare locker may be accessed only if 2 conditions are met. A. The dome hatch has opened without authorization, and B. The footstep count exceeds 52. 6. If you find yourself in a room you do not remember entering, assume a breach has occurred. Initiate lockdown gamma immediately. 7. Do not trust supply deliveries even if they arrive on schedule. Verify the driver's name against the monthly roster. If the roster is missing, assume compromise. 8. The number 52 is sacred. Do not speak it aloud. Do not write it except in the official log. 9. If your shadow moves independently, do not look at it. Retreat to the center of the room and remain still until it sinks. 10. You are never alone, but you must never act like you're not. I taped the amendments below the original rules. That night, the storm returned. Not wind, not snow, a blizzard of whispers. They came from every direction, through walls, through vents, through the floor. Jack, just open the door. Come see the dome, it's beautiful inside. You don't have to follow the rules, you made them up. I covered my ears, sat in the center of the radio booth, repeated the radio phrase under my breath. I am stationed. I follow the rules. Over and over. At 1 a.m., the dome hatch opened. I heard the hydraulic hiss from inside the outbuilding. Rule 1, the dome hatch must be sealed by 6 p.m. and not reopened until 6 a.m. No exceptions, it was open. I didn't go look. I initiated emergency protocol 1, seal, theta, tape, salt, radio booth. At 2 a.m., something began circling the outbuilding. Not footsteps dragging like a body. It circled once, twice. On the third pass, it stopped at the door. Silence, then a key turning in the lock. I hadn't given anyone a key. I held my breath. The doorknob turned, but the tape held. It tried again, harder. The wood groaned. I reached for the flare locker. Condition A. Dome hatch opened without authorization. Check. Condition B. Footstep counts. But this wasn't footsteps, this was dragging. I hesitated. The doorknob stopped turning. Silence. At 3 a.m. the dragging resumed. It circled again. 52 times I counted. On the 52nd pass, it stopped. At 6 a.m., I opened the radio booth. The outbuilding was intact, but the salt line at the main door was broken, scattered, and in the center of the room, written in snow that didn't melt, were 2 words. Let go. I swept it away, burned the broom. That afternoon, Bettles called on Channel 4, weak signal but clear. Mercer, your rotation ends in 3 days. We're sending a replacement. Can you hold until then? Yes, I said. Good. Diaz, he didn't last this long. You're doing better than he did. I didn't tell them about the open hatch, or the dragging, or the snow writing. I just said, I follow the rules. The next 2 nights were quiet. No knocks, no footsteps, no whispers. On the final night, I prepared the handover packet. I typed a clean copy of the core rules, added the amendments, included the emergency protocols. Wrote a cover note for the next person. Read before first shift. I left it on the desk. At 6 a.m., the snowmobile arrived. Hendricks this time. He stepped inside, scanned the room. You look like hell, he said. I followed the rules, I said. He nodded. That's why you're walking out. He handed me an envelope, my final paycheck. I shouldered my duffel, looked back at the dome. It stood silent, white, innocent. I turned away. As the snowmobile descended the ridge, I checked my watch. 6:15 a.m. In the distance behind me, I heard the first knock. I didn't look back. I locked the door in my mind and kept driving.